All right, folks, today we're gonna use some Apoxie Sculpt. We're gonna do some sculpting. Let's get to it.
Curtis A reached out to me, said make a theme song for my show. Said alright, just give me all the details, man. And my homie says he don't know. Well, if you're gonna pay me big bucks, cause I might should have something to say. He said, you know what I bring, I'm the customizing king, nothing else matters anyway. So is he gonna have guests? I don't know. Is he gonna go live? I don't know. What time will it be? What will you see? I'm pretty much in the dark, but I can guarantee
He'll be customizing action figures, getting paint all on his fingers.
it's art by Ackerman. It's art by Ackerman.
Tips and tricks and conversation, sharing his gift with every nation.
It's art by Ackerman. Art by Ackerman. You best get ready, cause now it's time for Art by Ackerman.
All right, so we're gonna do a little sculpting today, and the substance that I use for this is called Apoxie Sculpt, and you've got two parts. This is part A, and then you've got part B. And it's pretty simple stuff. You mix equal parts of part A and part B together. You knead it together for a few minutes, and then you let it sit for 5 minutes. And once it's sat for 5 minutes, then you're able to start using it, and you can sculpt it into basically whatever you want. So there's some other stuff I use for smaller things, like if I just need to fill some holes or cracks or something, I'll use like this Citadel liquid green stuff. But for the most part, I use this Apoxie Sculpt. There's other things that you can use. There's one called Milliput that a lot of people use. There's also green stuff. I just showed you the liquid green stuff, but there's regular green stuff that a lot of folks use as well. But this is just what I've always used. This was recommended by a friend, Eric Borges. You may know him as Zombie 13 in the customizing community. And so I tried it. It worked really well for me, and I've just used this ever since. So I'm gonna go ahead and get set up, and then we will be right back. So I'm ready to go now, and now's the time where I would mix up the two parts, part A and part B. But first thing you gotta figure out is how much sculpting material do you need? Because you've gotta mix it up first, and then you work with it, and then it hardens on its own, and then you can sand it, paint it, whatever. But you don't wanna mix up more than you need, and you don't wanna mix up too little. Too little is obviously worse than too much. You could always do something with more, but so what I'm gonna do is kind of take a look at what I'm trying to sculpt today. So first thing is I've got this spiky ball top from a mace. It's from a Cosmic Legion big spike mace. And all I'm trying to do with this piece is just fill in this open hole. So you can see I've got this other one here. And actually when I went to go remove the handle, it snapped off, and I was like, oh, that kind of actually works the way that I want it to. And so I just sanded it down. So this one's already ready to go, just has that handle kind of broke off in there, but that'll work for what I need. So we're just trying to get this one just like that. So we just need a little bit to fill in that hole. So that's not gonna take too much. Then I've got this wooden base, and a lot of this next stuff that I'm going to show you isn't going to really make a whole lot of sense right now, but just kind of trust me. So I've created this wooden base, just a little piece of, I think it's 1 inch by 4 inches, you know, whatever. And this is going to work for this ship that I'm working on. And this is very work in progress, but this is a ship that I picked up from Stefan Delator. I've added a bunch of stuff here, some guns and some little lights at the bottom, and I'm adding a seat and some controls here. So I'm adding a lot of things, and then on the back of this, I'm going to have some charbots, okay, coming off the back of this. So this is gonna be a big project, but for right now, what I'm trying to do is this vehicle is gonna go onto this. So it's gonna kind of make this like base for this vehicle to sit on. And the reason I did that is I didn't like when the vehicle was just flat. It looked kind of odd to me. I wanted it more at an angle. And so I wanted to create this base to kind of make it at this angle. So all I did was I took a dowel, and on the bottom, Just kind of screwed that in, got a washer there, got the dowel on the board. And now what I'm trying to do with this is make it look more like kind of an alien planet, like ground. I'm just trying to make this look like, if you imagine, I don't know, maybe like what Mars, like what the ground would look like. All right, so I don't want it to look like a chunk of wood. So I'm gonna cover this with some Apoxie Sculpt. I'm gonna fill in this section at the bottom just in case somebody were to, you know, look over. I don't want them to see like a washer and a screw and stuff. I want this all covered up. And I wanna make this look like some kind of cracked earth. And I'm not sure yet, but maybe even, so on the bottom of this ship, you can see I've already used some Apoxie Sculpt here. So that's what this stuff is. I've already filled this in. I'm going to use hot glue to kind of make some flames on this. So it looks like kind of an exhaust jet coming out the bottom. So if this is gonna be on here like this, what I may do is make kind of a scorched something behind here. So like where this stick is kind of where the ship's gonna be. So maybe kind of like a cracked earth or cracked, you know, ground with like a scorch mark here, like the ship was traveling this way. So that's kind of what I'm gonna do there. So I'm gonna fill up this thing and kind of cover it. So I'm gonna need quite a bit for that. And then the last thing is on this ship, I want to, this is part of a Cosmic Legion shield that I've cut up, and I'm gonna use that as the seat back on here. So I wanna add a little bit more Apoxie Sculpt. You can see this is from Apoxie Sculpt here. I've not sanded it down and stuff yet. It's just, you know, I kind of formed this seat to fit a Cosmic Legion. So kind of like this, right? But I wanna have this seat back on here. So I need a little bit more Apoxie Sculpt, and then I want that seat back to go kind of like this, all right? So I need a little bit for here. I need a lot for that wood base, and then I need a little bit for this spiky ball. You may be asking, what am I planning on doing with those spiky balls? Well, I'm glad you asked. So I'm gonna take some chain here, and I'm going to have a chain that goes from the back of the vehicle and just basically like drags these spiky balls behind it on the ground. So this thing's got, you know, it's flying, it's got guns, it's got missiles, but it's also got these like spike balls that it's dragging behind it that it can, you know, fling into people or vehicles or whatever as it's going along. So that's what we're gonna do. So based on that, I've got to figure out how much Apoxie Sculpt I'm gonna need. Oh yeah, one last thing. So I've got this, what I'm calling like a control panel that's actually mixed from part of Slog's little hand contraption that he uses. And then I've also got, this is a part of the chest piece for a science officer. And so I've combined those together, and I want to put that in here in this control panel middle section. So I'm gonna need some Apoxie Sculpt for in there as well. And then I'm just gonna shove this inside of it and then let it dry, and then obviously paint it once we get to that stage. One other thing that I'll show while we're here, this has nothing to do with the Apoxie Sculpt, but this is also from Slog's kind of handheld device that he has. It's got his little monitor so that he can monitor his health and stuff. But what I'm gonna use this as is like a targeting system, as if this ship is trying to shoot him down. So I've cut a slit in this vehicle here, and this will slide right into there. And I'm gonna put like a bullseye kind of targeting system on there, and glue that in there. So that's kind of what we're working on. The project itself is not really the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is just to kind of show you how to use the Apoxie Sculpt, how to mix it, how to use it, and go from there. So at this point, I'm going to grab some and mix it up and hope that I grab enough. Like I said, if you have too much, you can always, you know, make something else after it. Make a figurine, or just a ball, or a hat, or a, you know, some sort of accessory, you know, or just kind of play around with it. But you don't want to have not enough. Not enough is bad, because then you got to mix up a whole nother batch of it. So So let me just grab some of this out of here. I've put parchment paper down because you want to have something that it's not going to stick to. And then here we go. So I'm just kind of rolling up a ball of this. And I got quite a bit because I got to cover that whole wooden base and everything. So remember, this is just going to be half of it because I've got to get an equal part of the part B as well. So, try to grab that. And this stuff, sometimes it'll start getting a little yellow over time, and that's fine. You just mix it back together and it's good. There's nothing wrong with that. Can't say what like green stuff does because, like I said, I don't really use that, but my understanding is these things are pretty similar in terms of you're mixing two parts and then you get, you know, something that you can work with for a while, and then after a while it hardens and then you can, you know, do whatever you need to. So there's my two balls, and then I'll go, okay, how similar are they in size? I think this one's probably a little bit bigger than this one. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more of that because you wanna have equal parts on this stuff. So just gonna grab that, mix it up. Okay, so now I got two balls, pretty close to the same size. I think that's pretty good. Maybe need just a pinch of this. So we'll throw that in there. And then if you look at the instructions on here, it says for working timeline, it says 30 minutes sticky, most adhesive. So that's where you want to kind of attach it to where you're at. 1 to 2 hours, it's easy to work with. So an hour or two into it, you can work with it pretty well. 2 to 3 hours setting up, it's starting to harden. And then after 24 hours, it's hardened, cured, waterproof, ready to go. And then on this one, which is part A, it says wear disposable gloves. I'm not doing that. I just wash my hands afterwards. Mix and knead for 2 minutes. And then after that, let it sit for 5 minutes before handling. Apoxie Sculpt is ready to use. Working time is 1 to 3 hours. So there you go. So I'll put my lids back on. And then I'm just gonna mix these two together. So, and it's, you know, kind of like when you were using clay or Play-Doh or any of that as a kid. You're just, you know, it feels like that kind of consistency. And you can see we've got two different colors in there, and so we're trying to mix it until we get it to where it's just one color. So just keep mixing that up. You can see it's starting to kind of, you still got some slurries in there. It looks kind of marble-ish, but it's getting closer. So just gonna keep going on that. So we're getting this kind of grayish color. That's about what we want. So you just keep kind of working with it. Okay, so now we've pretty much got it to where we need it to be. I'll just kind of form it into a little bit of a ball and then put it down, and we're gonna let it sit here for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, we can start working with it. So I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. We've let this sit for 5 minutes. We're able to start using this now. And at this point, you can just kind of use this, you know, like normal clay. But it will harden, and after 24 hours, it'll be set, and you will, you know, have a working surface on that. Like I said, you can sand, you can paint, all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna start with my little spiky ball. I'm just gonna fill this hole in. So just gonna get some of that in there. Now, when you first start using this after you've mixed it, it's going to be very tacky. So you're really just trying to adhere it more than anything, get it in the space that you're wanting. but you're not doing the actual sculpting work yet. That would come within like the first hour or so. You can start manipulating it and changing some things. And let me show you that other spike one. You can see that on this one, it's like really flush here. It's nice and flat. Here it's going to be a little bit rounded because I'm going to sand this down afterwards. So you want to go a little bit kind of over what you're actually doing. And then you can sand it down from there. So there's that piece, that's done. Next, I'm gonna go with this kind of control panel spot in the middle. So let me just kind of place this like that. And I'm just gonna get a chunk of this stuff and kind of fill in this hole. And I had some Apoxie Sculpt in here initially that was just kind of filling some of that space, because that same hole here is what came out the bottom. In the bottom here, you see I've got, this is like a cable holder that you can like put on your wall to put a bunch of cables in to kind of keep it organized. So I just shoved that in there, cut it off, put some Apoxie Sculpt around here, and then this will slide over that dowel we saw earlier on the stand. But this hole goes all the way up to this control panel, so that's why there was some already in there. And then I just need to find that control, which is right here, and probably gonna get a set of tweezers so I can put this in where I want it to be. So I think right about there looks good. And I'm just gonna shove that in. Okay, so that's kind of what that looks like right now. I think that's pretty good. And then that'll harden right there, and then I can paint it. I may, within that first hour, just kind of go in here and smooth this out a little bit more. And I think I'm gonna put some down here at the bottom. Let me get a little bit smaller piece. I'm just kind of trying to push some of that in there. Now, I've got some working tools that I use with the clay. This is my just kind of this I think held some paintbrushes at one point, but now I'm using it for my clay tools. And I've got a bunch of different things here. So got some of these that are like rubberized, tools that you can kind of flatten it out with. You got some other tools that, like this one's got a pointy end. It's got a flat spatula type end. So if you buy just a set of tools from Hobby Lobby or something, I'll see if I can find a decent set on Amazon that has a lot of clay tools. But they'll have just different ends and different things on here. Some of these aren't as clean as I probably would have liked them. This one's just kind of got a little drill on both sides. So yeah, just different stuff. You got some that'll have this is for texturing things, if you wanted to make hair or something. Same thing here, got these bristles that you can kind of brush and do things with. So just a bunch of different tools there, and I'm going to use one of these. I'm going to use this one, I think. Actually, I think I'll use this one, and just kind of push some of this down in here into that area that I'm looking to get it in. And I'm going to need a little bit more. And I'm just trying to shove that down in that area. I'm not sure how well this is coming across on the screen, but just trying to fill that space right now. And I'm not worried about it looking fantastic. I can adjust the look of it as, it starts to solidify a little bit and gets more to that working space. Right now, we're just trying to make sure that we've got enough in there to fill that gap. So I want it to look like this control panel is, you know, part of the vehicle. And worst case scenario, like after I've done this epoxy sculpt, if some of this isn't the most pretty, like if it's got some rough edges and stuff, then I could jump in there with some of the like liquid green stuff or, you know, something along those lines to smooth it out, make it look a little bit better. So. And then you can also, you know, use a little water on here if you need to, if it's starting to get like too sticky to your tools. I think I heard Emil when I had him on, I think I heard him say something about using maybe some Vaseline on his tools to keep it from sticking to it. So, so that's kind of what that looks like right now. So I think I'm good there. I do have, yeah, that'll be fine. I don't need to add anything there. Okay, so the next thing on here is the back of the seat. So we want to add some to that. And I'm saving the big chunk of this for the base because I know that's going to take a lot, but it's not something specific that I need a certain amount for. So basically I'm just kind of working the other areas that I know I need a specific amount for. And then when I get to that base, just whatever's left is what I'm going to throw on it. So let me throw some of this on the back of here, on the back of this seat. And I already know, like from testing it before with the epoxy sculpt that I've got on there, that this is big enough for the rear end of the figure. So I don't need any more space backwards. I'm just trying to get enough on here that I can fit this back on. You can see I had some blue tack to kind of keep it in place, but I don't want that on here when I'm going to put this on. So, all right, so just kind of push this together a little bit. And I'm just checking to see, make sure that it's even. I want it to look good. So the goal here with what I'm trying to do is make it look like this seat that I'm creating is actually part of the vehicle. It's not something that I just tacked on. So I'm trying to make it look like it belongs. So that's really the main goal here. Now this stuff, as you're working with it, you'll see it'll leave some on your hand. It's also going to leave stuff on things that you're touching. But as this is like kind of hardening and stuff, you can always take just like a wet paper towel or Q-tip or something and just kind of rub that area, and that stuff will come off while it's still wet. Once it hardens, you'd have to really kind of sand it off. But before it fully hardens, you can just kind of use water to get it off of there. So, okay, so this is kind of what I'm looking at right now. Hopefully that's showing up on camera. So like at the bottom of that seat back, that's a spot that I might have to clean up with like some liquid green stuff later. But for right now, I'm gonna try to get a little piece in there just to, you know, make that fit the way that I want it to. So I'm just, you know, kind of like you would with Play-Doh, just kind of spaghetti rolling this thing. And then I'm gonna put that along the back there. And then just try to work that in with one of my tools. I'm just trying to fill if there's any gap underneath that seat back. I'm trying to fill that in. So, but I don't want a bunch of extra either. So, now when this starts to harden a little bit, I'll try to smooth that out a little bit more. But for right now, I think we're gonna call this good for right now. I think I'm gonna put a little bit extra just around this area that I've already done, just to kind of connect those two a little bit better. I haven't done a lot of doing new Apoxie Sculpt on top of Apoxie Sculpt that I'd already done. So it'll be interesting to see how it adheres. I think it'll be just fine. I mean, I gotta imagine that's something that they assume people are gonna do with this stuff. But we will let you know as this hardens, so. And now we're gonna start working on this base. So one of the main things that I wanna do on this base is fill in that spot on the bottom. I don't want this like screw and, you know, kind of rough area that I dremeled and all that showing if somebody was to turn this over. So I'm gonna first fill that in. And I'm just gonna kind of cover this whole bottom area as thinly as I can. I want it to feel like this is all part of like an alien planet. So I'm just kind of trying to get coverage on this. And I really didn't know how much of this Apoxie Sculpt I was gonna need for this part. So, you know, I may have mixed way too much, or I may have not mixed near enough. We will find out, time will tell. Covering that bottom. So I'm going to work on this, and then when I get close to being done with the bottom part, I will be right back. Okay, so I've got that bottom pretty much covered, and at this point I'm just kind of smoothing it out a bit. I don't need it perfectly smooth because it's not supposed to be completely flat, but I want it flat enough that this thing's going to sit right. So I'm just using a little bit of water on my fingers or on my thumbs and just kind of smoothing it out a bit. Got a little water nearby and just kind of working that. Any big areas, just trying to work them down. Okay, and just put this down on here, press it a little bit. It looks like that's sitting pretty well. So, okay. So now I'm gonna start working on the top part. What I can tell you is I can tell you that I do not have enough of this. So I'm going to have to mix some more. So I'm gonna start with around this joint here. And I think because the way that this sits, it's got this kind of loose feel to this. I may try to build up this dowel a little bit. So I'm gonna work on this, around the bottom here and then around this dowel, cover as much of this as I can, and then I'm gonna have to mix some more and then I'll be back. So be back in just a little bit. Okay, so you can kind of see where we're at here. We got a good portion of this base covered, but not the whole thing. So I'm gonna have to mix up some more of this. So I'm gonna do that. And my parchment paper is a little sticking to it, but I think it was more just the creases than anything. I'm gonna put this over the side, get a new piece of parchment paper, mix up a new bunch of this stuff. So we just got to cover the rest of this base. We don't have anything else we have to really do. I'm just kind of looking over my work space and making sure, but I don't see anything else offhand. So so let's see, just kind of, I think this will probably be enough. So there's ball number 1 of part A, and we've got ball number 2, part B. This feels a little bit smaller. Actually, I think those are pretty close. I'm gonna call that even. Gonna go ahead and mix these up and then we will be back. Okay, we're back. We've mixed up a new ball. It's been 5 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and work on a little bit more of this base. So just kind of covering this up. The other stuff is already starting to kind of harden a little bit. So it's more at that point where, you can kind of get some good sculpting with it. So let me cover the rest of this. And once I get this covered, I will be right back. Okay, so I've got this base covered now. It's, completely covered. Doesn't look the best, but keep in mind, after it, while it's hardening, I can still sculpt it. I can still do some things. So if I want to, kind of add different textures, if I wanted to do something like that, like I can add different textures. I can do things as it's drying, with these different tools. So there's a lot of things that you can kind of do as this is, solidifying and stuff. And then, once it does solidify, you can use, a Dremel on it, you can sand it, you can do all kinds of things. If you want to kind of play around with different tools and textures and kind of see what it does, what I do is I keep this is just regular clay, like that you would use, that you would bake in an oven in order for it to get hard. So I keep this around, and then if I want to kind of like, let's say this tool here, like you can use to make like individual lines and stuff. But let's say I looked at this and I go, oh, I wonder what this like material here would do on it. you know, without putting it on, like maybe I don't want to mix a bunch of Apoxie Sculpt first and use it on that and then have to redo it if I don't like it. I can use it on the regular clay and kind of see what those textured surfaces do before applying it to the Apoxie Sculpt. So like this one's got like some prongs at the end and stuff. So if I wanted to kind of test it out, I could use this first. I've already mixed up my Apoxie Sculpt, so it doesn't matter. But like I could go in here and see, okay, well, what does that look like if I start just using that tool on here? What kind of surface does that give me? And is that something that I'm looking for? Let's see, that one's not gonna really do much. We got this one is kind of a curved tool. Hold on, it's got a little bit of clay on it, but so this one's kind of a curved one. Like what does that look like if I were to layer some of this, right? Like, does that look like something that I want it to do? You know, so you can just kind of mess around with things. Like I said, like this shape here, like if I wanted to like dig that in there, like what does that do? You know, is that you know, something that I would look for, or this, you know? And then I've got like these more like rubberish tools that I can get some water on here and I can use this to kind of smooth this stuff out. So if I want to get it really smooth, I can use that. Let's see what other tools we got here. This one's kind of more like a X-Acto knife on the end. You've got this one that's kind of a scraping tool. So if I wanted to scrape some of this off, now it's still a little tacky. So for this tool, I would probably want to wait until this hardens a little bit more. Plus that might be the area that I just did. We started with the spike ball, so that one should be, and that's still a little tacky too, but once that gets a little dry, I could use this to kind of scrape on there. So there's just a lot of different things you can do as this is drying, and you can just kind of play around and see what you like. I think the one that I like the most so far is this one, which is this tool here, and just kind of putting that all over. But I'm not sure. I may not use any of that. The other thing, you know, you could always do, you could add little tufts of grass on here, or you've got like this cork board. You can take some pieces of this cork board and just kind of tear it and put it on there, and that'll make it look like kind of like layered lava rock and stuff. So I'll kind of play around with this and see, you know, what I end up liking. And you'll probably see what I finish with on another video, but this is how it works. So, you know, once again, you know, this is Apoxie Sculpt. You could use Milliput, you could use green stuff. I use Apoxie Sculpt. Part A, Part B, mix them in equal parts, knead them together for about 2 minutes until you get all the colors have become one solid color. Let it sit for 5 minutes and then use it for whatever you're using, whether you're filling a hole like on this spike, whether you're trying to add a piece like on this chair back, or whether you're just trying to cover something like I was on this base here. And then from there, you can work with it as it's drying, and then you can also sand it and Dremel it and everything once it hardens. I mean, once this stuff hardens, it is hard as a rock. So you can see, I'll just bring this back over here. So like this part's already been done. I mean, that is solid. It's a very solid piece. So that's not going anywhere. So hope that helped. I'll probably do another video as I kind of continue to work on this base and on this project. I'll probably break this up into a few videos. And you know what I'll do is I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'll maybe do a little bit more work on this today. And then after this hardens, I'll come back tomorrow and finish off this video with just kind of showing you once it's hardened. And then we'll kind of go from there. So a little bit more to come on this video, which means I'm probably going to have a day where there's no video drop, which would probably be the day before this one dropped. So if you notice there was a day with no video, it's because I wanted to give you guys a little bit more on this one. So I will check you guys out tomorrow. Okay, we're back. It's been not quite 24 hours, maybe about 20 hours. I did do some texturing to this base, just threw in some lines and stuff here. I'm still going to, you know, add some corkboard spots on here. I'm gonna do some textured paint and some other things on here to try to make this look more earthy on this ground, but that'll be in a later video. You can see the spike here. I am going to sand this down, and then you've got the back of the chair, and then that control panel in there. So, you know, got some work to do now, but at this point, you know, this stuff is hardened, and I can either use, you know, like sanding sticks. I've got some big files that I can use, or a Dremel, and you can just kind of manipulate this, and you can still do some sculpting after the fact. It's just, you know, now this is a hard surface, so the sculpting is going to have to be with, you know, like a Dremel or you know, file or sanding sticks or something like that. But just, and I'll quickly, pardon the noise, but I'll just kind of show you what this looks like with a Dremel. So you can see there, I can Dremel this down, smooth out some of the edges. Like I said, I can sand on it. And that's kind of where I'll go from here. So more to come on a later video, but this is kind of where I'm going to leave this at for today. So once again, if you're going to use Apoxie Sculpt, you got part A, part B, mix it together, 2 minutes, then let it sit for 5. Then you can sculpt whatever you want. You know, use the hour to 2 hours afterwards to kind of make whatever shapes and things that you need. And then from there, you can Dremel sand it, whatever, to your finish, and then go from there. So as I work more on this project, like I said, I'll have other videos, but this will just kind of give you an idea of how to use the Apoxie Sculpt. Once again, there's other things that you can use, whether it's green stuff or milliput or whatever. I'm getting ready to order some green stuff to try that out and see how that goes. And then for like, let's say like around the bottom of this seat, like if I wanted to just fill in, let me get my X-Acto knife, kind of point where I'm talking about here. So like if I wanted to fill in like this spot underneath where that is, that's where something like the liquid green stuff would come in. I also just got this new stuff recommended by Joe Martinez. It's from Vallejo, called Plastic Putty, that you can just kind of put some of that in there. And that's, you know, for like your more fine tuning stuff, that stuff would work really well. Whereas the sculpting stuff, whether it's Apoxie Sculpt, green stuff, whatever, is really more for your big bulky areas. So still got some finishing work to do on this, but that is really how you use the sculpting clay. So hope that helped. If it did, throw down a like. If you have any questions or comments, if there's it seems like on a lot of these videos, like people have some ideas on how I could do something easier and stuff, and that's great. Please throw those in there, and who knows, maybe it'll lead to a later video. As I say on a lot of these, I'm not showing you the best way to do something or a definitive way to do something. I'm just showing you how I do it. I've picked up a lot of things just from watching videos and talking to people over the years, and I'm just trying to consolidate that and condense that into a format that's easy for you to view. But there's always, I'm learning something every single day. So if you have a better way for me to do something or an idea for me, make sure you throw that in the comments, and I will talk to you folks later. Thanks a lot. Until next time, keep creating, folks.